Jeans? Blair would never wear jeans. Ever. Especially not faded jeans. Blair Waldorf. The Blair Waldorf. This book is offensive to me. As a Blair Waldorf stan, this book is offensive to me. Because Blair would never. She would never. So I just really like the fact that I can read about these characters and like visualize all of them and visualize these scenes playing out in my head. It just makes for a more fun reading experience. She didn't really do nothing for me. I just felt like her like blog posts were also very weird and like cringe at a lot of times. Whereas in the show, Gossip Girl is anything but cringe. She has the best one-liners, the best zingers, the best quotes, and just like double entendres and innuendos. That's part of what makes Gossip Girl so iconic, is like how she goes about like her wordplay. Like ain't nobody seeing Gossip Girl's pen, you know what I mean, when it comes to talking about the students at Constance and St. Jude's. That's part of what makes Gossip Girl so iconic.
And who am I? That's not a secret I'll never tell. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.
So by the title of today's video, you can tell that this is going to be another reading vlog, but guys, I'm actually really excited about this one because this is one of the reading vlogs that was up here in my mind in the queue that I really wanted to execute, and I'm so happy that it's finally the time. But I will be reading the first book in the Gossip Girl series. So before we get into the actual book and like why I'm doing this, I just wanted to quickly say that there are 13 books in this series, so I don't plan on reading all of them, which is why I mentioned like the first book in this video. I am still going back and forth and trying to figure out if I want to read not only the first book but the last book in the series, but I'm still not 100% sure because I am moving in May, and so I'm really trying my hardest to not deviate from my April TBR too much, because I really want to wrap up all of those books before I have to start moving, because I know once May hits I'm probably only going to be able to read maybe like 1 or 2 books. We will see, but I don't know. You guys will figure it out by the end of this video if I did read the last book in the series. But we're gonna start off with the first book, and I have it right here. And y'all, I'm so excited. So I decided to do this video because Gossip Girl is actually my favorite TV show of all time. The original, so OGGG, is my favorite show of all time. I love the drama. I love the absurdity, the theatrics, and just, again, rich people drama. I eat it up every single time. And I just love this show with all of my heart. So I didn't actually watch Gossip Girl when it was on the air back in 07. I was only, I think, in like middle school when this show came out, so I definitely was not checking for this at all. But I did watch the series when it hit Netflix, and I became obsessed with everyone in this show and their storylines. But I always knew that there was a book series for Gossip Girl, and I remember checking them out in the library, I feel like, at some point, but I never got around to reading them. So when I was thinking of different reading vlogs and just different things that I could do, I was like, wait a minute, there's a Gossip Girl book series. Let me pick up one of those books and compare it to the TV show. So I actually went on Depop and I found the entire like complete set of these books, and I was so excited when I found them because this is actually a dust jacket. Right here you can see Serena aka Blake Lively and Blair aka Leighton Meester. This is what the original book looks like. So it has that like quintessential, I feel like, mid 2000s like book cover where, you know, you have the people on the front. Like this is definitely giving me The Hills, The OC, all of those shows. But I found this on Depop, and Book Depository actually used to sell these, but they sold out. But yeah, I had to snag it because I love the show with all of my heart, and to have this on my bookshelf with my little Blair and Serena Funko Pops was just the icing on the cake. So I will put a little clip in here of what those books look like on my bookshelf along with my Funko Pops, because it is one of my prized possessions. I love staring at it because I love the show oh so much. But yeah, I decided to read at least the first book in the series and see what it's giving, and to see how much it compares to the actual show. So I do know that the books do differ a bit from the shows. Like there are some characters I think that aren't in the show that are in this book, and I also think that there's some like characters who don't end up with the people that they ended up with in the show. So I'm really excited to look at the similarities as well as the differences between the books and the show. So yeah, I just wanted to come on here and say that and show you guys I love these editions so much. I'm one of those people that typically doesn't really like movie or TV covers on shows, on books, but depending on the show and if it's like one of my favorites, then I don't mind. Like I have the TV cover of You, like the book You, with Penn Badgley on the front, and like I love that show, so like I didn't care. And then this one, of course, I had to get it because like my girls are on the front. Like come on, my girlies are on the front. So yeah, I cannot wait to dive into this one. This is actually pretty short. It's only, I want to say, maybe like 190 something pages, so almost 200 pages, and I feel like I could probably fly through this because it's just really short, and it is written in like, you know, like the Gossip Girl post, and I'm just so excited. to dive into this. I don't know if you guys could tell and like really see the excitement on my face. But yeah, I can't wait. So I will check in with you guys when I actually start the book and have something more to say. I'm actually about to start reading this now, and I wanted to read the inside flap for you guys because it's so hilarious, but like very on brand for Gossip Girl. And right here it says,
"Welcome to New York City's Upper East Side, where my friends and I live, go to school, play, and sleep. Sometimes with each other." S is back from boarding school, and if we aren't careful, she's going to win over our teachers, wear that dress we couldn't fit into, steal our boyfriends' hearts, and basically ruin our lives in a major way. I'll be watching closely. I'll be watching all of us. It's going to be a wild and wicked year. I can smell it. You know you love me, Gossip Girl.
That was just so like nostalgic. I love that. I love that so much. But very interesting that I didn't have the XOXO Gossip Girl. So I guess that is one of the major differences, is that she doesn't say XOXO, at least not in that inside flap. So I don't know, but at least she did say the "you know you love me" part. But as you guys can tell, I tried to get in my Kristen Bell bag and try to narrate that as best as possible, but I am no Kristen Bell, so I can't narrate as well as she does, but you guys get the gist. Anyways, like I said before, I would check in with you guys when I have something new to say. I also meant to quickly say that this vlog is probably going to have spoilers because it's a themed reading vlog and it's about a TV show that I have already watched, and in order for me to comment on this, I kind of have to give spoilers. So please keep that in mind before you proceed with this video, but I'm just letting you know right now. Hey y'all, so it's actually 5:19 and I am at the 50 page mark right now, so I decided to check in. And before we get started, I apologize if you hear any noise. It has been so fucking loud outside of my apartment complex all day today, and I just don't understand. I guess because it's really nice and sunny, everyone decided to just go outside and wild out, but I apologize if you hear any noise. I'm just gonna let you guys know right now, I'm gonna be word vomiting and word dumping a lot of like my thoughts because they're all over the place. So yeah, before I actually jump into my thoughts about this book, I did just want to quickly say that I'm not going to go into my thoughts about each character individually until the very end, just because I'm still like pretty early in the book and I feel like everyone's still trying to like figure themselves out and like figure out their storyline and all of that. So I'm gonna just wait until the end to talk about every single character individually, and if I feel like they are similar to the characters in the show or if they're very different, etc. So yeah, I am just going to talk about the plot essentially and what's going on right now. I will say that this book does mirror season 1 pretty accurately, specifically season 1 episode 1. This pretty much starts out at Blair's house where she has a party, and if you guys watched episode 1, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There was a party that took place in that episode where Serena came back and everybody was like, oh my gosh, Serena, she's back in town. I wonder why she left boarding school. Oh my goodness. And like all of this hype and like anticipation and like intrigue was like surrounding Serena. So that is very accurate to the show and very accurate to the book, and they stuck with that, which I was pretty happy about because yeah, that's pretty much what set the catalyst, I feel like, for Gossip Girl in a way, at least on the show. So it was interesting that they did take those elements from the book and they spun it into a TV plot. I like that. So like nostalgic. It's so nice to be able to put an actual face and voice to these characters because I know exactly what they're supposed to look like, how they're supposed to sound. And honestly, reading this book and just like going from character to character, the casting was pretty spot on. I will say that I think that they did a good job with the casting because the way that they're all described in the book, it really is accurate. So I love that, especially Serena's character, the way that they describe her, it's Blake Lively to a T. So like the casting director, whoever it is, they snapped. Another thing is that Serena and Nate did hook up before Serena went off to boarding school, and Blair does not know. So I thought that was really interesting because I'm like, ooh, like yes, that drama, like old school drama. Okay, I'm eating it up. I'm eating it up right now. I really like the different approach that the author took with Serena and Nate in here because I felt like in the show when it came to their hookup session and all of that in season 1, I felt like it was pretty one-dimensional. You could really tell like it was just there to like push the plot and like cause drama, and in here it's definitely used to push the plot and cause drama. There is a sense of depth added to Nate and Serena's backstory because you actually get to get a glimpse into what they were like before Serena went off to boarding school, and you also get to learn what that night was like when they actually hooked up. And it was different. Like, I remember in the show we did get a glimpse into like Serena and Nate that night they hooked up. Serena was dancing on like the tabletop bar, and like her and Nate were like, you know, laughing and joking, but like that's all we got. And here you really get to like get a glimpse into how they worked as a pair, and you could just tell that like there was more to their story than just them hooking up. Like in another life, if Blair wasn't around, they probably would have dated and been a couple. So I thought that was really fascinating, and I like that part of the story. Now, do I like the fact that Serena hooked up with her best friend's boyfriend? No, I didn't like that when we watched the show, and I didn't like it in here either. But it serves its purpose as good drama and entertainment, and that's what I'm here for. Unfortunately, Serena is slut-shamed very, very badly. Like, it's like every page and every chapter somebody is saying something about her and what she done at boarding school and what she did when she was back at Constance, and it is just so like nauseating to read about, especially now in this day and age. Of course, like it always was an issue, but reading it now in this day and age, especially knowing that authors would usually never include this in their books now, it's very jarring, but it's also very nauseating. And it just really puts into perspective how clear the double standards are, because nobody's saying shit to Chuck or Nate about their past or what they get up to, but also it's just like crazy how freely people would just talk about other people like this, and especially women, and especially young women like this. It's just so sad to like hear people talk about her like this. And again, just like the show, her reputation does precede her, and it's just sad. It's just sad. Like, that's all I can say. Going off of my point about Serena being slut shamed, another thing that is very similar is that everybody is so invested in her and her life and her love life in particular. Like, Serena got these people pressed, okay? Just like she did in the show, she has men and women pressed, and it's so bizarre because it's like, how can a teenage girl have this much power where you guys are so worried about who she hooked up with or who she didn't hook up with? No matter who it is or where she is, somebody gonna talk about Serena. Somebody gonna talk about her. Even if it's not Gossip Girl, somebody gonna talk about Serena. I just think that's so fascinating that a young girl, again, in high school has that much power where everybody is like clocking your moves and checking for you and trying to figure out what you getting up to. Like, I couldn't imagine, but I guess that comes with the territory with being Serena van der Woodsen, but also just being, you know, in this world, in this rich aristocrat world. I guess that's the territory it comes with, but oof, I could not handle that. I truly could not. I don't know if the author did that to serve a purpose. Like, I don't know if that was supposed to be like commentary or if that was really just because that's how some people, especially like teenagers, are in high school. Like, they're gonna slut shame other people. I don't know. I'm assuming it's the latter, but I don't know, it's still like weird to know that that's like a huge part of the book and a woman wrote this, you know? So I don't know. I knew what to expect going into this because like the show was already problematic. I knew that the books that it was based off of was going to be problematic too. Another thing that's very similar is the frenemies and rivalry and the love-hate relationship between Blair and Serena. I felt like that was always an appeal of their friendship. Okay, like quote unquote their friendship, and just like the show in general was how they would always go back and forth with one another and how they were never really truly friends, but they were friends, if you get what I'm saying. They're truly the definition and the epitome of frenemies and, you know, just rivals, honestly. Like, that's really what it boils down to. But I feel like in the book it's even more interesting to analyze their friendship because it's in a book, you get to read about Blair's inner thoughts and Serena's inner thoughts. And so reading about how Blair really feels about herself and how she feels about Serena and her friendship with Serena is more compelling than it is in the show. And you do get a little bit of that in the show in certain episodes. Blair will, you know, kind of open up and be more vulnerable and explain how she always feels like she's in Serena's shadow and how she just feels like people don't really pay attention to her when she's around Serena. But in the book, it's definitely more like, I feel like deep and like thought-provoking and like a little bit more intense because, again, you spend time in Blair's head and you really get to just read about her feelings towards her friendship with Serena and how she wants to be her friend, but she also doesn't want to be her friend, and how she hates her because she hates being in her shadow. But she also loves her because of how close they've been since they were kids, and they do have a lot in common. So I just thought that was really interesting, and I love me a good complicated family or friendship dynamic in books, and I really love to get into characters' heads and really understand what they're truly thinking about themselves and the people around them. I do want to get into the things that I've noticed that is very different from the show. So starting with the first thing, they smoke cigarettes a lot in this book. I don't know what was going on and why that was such a thing in like teenage or like YA books back in like 2007 through 2009, 10. I don't know why that was such a thing, but pretty much everybody in this book smokes cigarettes. If you guys watch Gossip Girl, you know that that's not what they did, and obviously it's because it was a show, I'm assuming, and it was portraying teenagers even though they were doing other stuff. But like, just knowing that they all smoke in here, so very jarring. I'm not used to that. I just realized that my camera might have been a little bit crooked, and I apologize for that. You guys can already tell how this vlog is gonna go. It's going to be a hot mess express, okay? Because this book is honestly a hot mess express, and I will get into why I feel like it's a hot mess express. Another thing that's different is that you not only focus on Blair, Serena, Chuck, Nate, Dan, and Jenny, but you also focus on these two other girls that are more close to Blair, and their names are Isabella and Katie. And I know in the show, Blair had two like minions. One name is, and I guess the other one's name was Katie. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that she did have two other best friends or like minions who pretty much like did her dirty work. But they're not like that in this book. I feel like they actually like do in a way stand on their own a little bit, because they like are like given like actual dialogue and plot points. So I thought that was really interesting, and I wonder why they didn't keep that in the show, because I would have liked if we would have followed, you know, just, you know, maybe two other people. I don't know. Gossip Girl had a lot of people in it, so it's not like it would have been that big of a deal if they threw two more people in, because there were so many people already involved in the plot in this show. So I don't know, but I just wanted to note that because I thought that was really interesting that they kind of have dialogue, whereas in the show and the other girl who was Blair's minions did not have dialogue. They didn't really say too much unless Blair spoke to them or made them speak. So yeah, another difference that I noticed is that Eric isn't really in this story. I don't think he's going to be in this story, to be honest, because in the beginning you find out that Eric is actually Serena's older brother and he's off at college, which I knew when I found out when I watched Gossip Girl and I started to like really like look into the books and everything. I heard that Eric was actually older in the books than he was in the show. I wonder what made them take that different approach to make Eric younger than Serena. And I guess that was purely just to have another character like really like be in the show and make it make sense, essentially. Another thing that I noticed is that Nate and Chuck are not friends in this book, you guys. They don't really like each other that much, or at least they don't run in the same circles, which I thought was so sad, because I actually enjoyed Nate and Chuck's friendship in the show, especially because Chuck didn't have anybody really besides Blair at certain points throughout the show. I always really enjoyed his friendship with Nate because he always, for the most part, had Nate to count on, and vice versa. So I really hate that they didn't make Chuck and Nate friends in the book, but I'm glad that the producers saw the potential and made that change when they greenlit the show. Last reference that I have here in my notes that I wanted to point out is that Gossip Girl herself is very different, and I don't know how I feel about it, guys. I really don't know how I feel about it, because this book was written in I think 2008 or 2009. The only similarity that I've noticed is that Gossip Girl is still like in a blog format, just like it was in the show. Gossip Girl actually has like a Q&A section on her blog. So I know in the show there was like a comment section, but I don't think Gossip Girl ever really interacted with anybody who submitted stuff to her, unless it was like Chuck, Serena, Nate, Dan at certain points in the show. But in here she actually like interacts with people. Like, it doesn't matter if you're Nate, Chuck, Dan, etc. Like, she will like interact with you depending on if your tip was juicy or not. So yeah, I thought that was really different, and I don't know how I feel about it. A lot of this is jarring, so I just feel like this book is like not real because of how different it is from the show in a lot of aspects. But like, obviously it is real, and I know that they just took elements from the book to make it into a show. But really fascinating to read about what parts of the books in this series in general that they took to put in the show, and what stuff they decided not to bring into the show. And reading this and knowing Gossip Girl like the back of my hand, I'm so glad that they made those changes, because it definitely would have made for a different show, and I don't think it would have been as iconic if they would have really stuck to the script. So kudos to the executive producers and all of them who made that happen, because I did mention that this book is a hot mess. Stay tuned for the end, because that's when I'm going to give a character breakdown and analysis, and then also just talk about like the overall plot and the overall vibes of this book. Hey y'all, so it's actually Wednesday, April 3rd, 1:40 in the afternoon, and I'm halfway through the Gossip Girl book, and I have a lot of thoughts. I already have a lot of thoughts. Kind of cringy, and it's also just very, very problematic. And I'm not saying that the original Gossip Girl isn't problematic, because we all know that it is, but like, this book is really, really problematic. It's like on every single page, Serena is getting slut shamed up and down, and I'm just like, I don't know how much more I can take. I really don't know how much more I can take. Every single time it happens, I'm just like, again, can y'all come up with something else? Can y'all come up with something else? I feel like at a certain point, people don't really talk about Serena's past as much, but in this book, they bring it up every chance that they get. And like, there are so many rumors about her swirling around that are just the most awful and vile rumors that you can think of. Hey guys, so it's actually the next day, April 14th around 1 p.m. and I actually finished the Gossip Girl book yesterday, but there was a lot going on after work and I just didn't have time to turn on the camera and really give you guys my final thoughts, as well as break down the characters and point out the similarities and the differences between them in here versus in the show. But we're here now and we're going to get into all the tea, and I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts on this book and what's going on. So before we get into my actual like final thoughts and like character analysis, I just wanted to tell you my rating of this book. So I was going back and forth between this because I understand that this book was not written in this day and age, so I knew that there was going to be a lot of problematic themes in here, but like not as much as I anticipated. And I don't know why, because being a huge fan of the TV series, I know that the TV series itself is pretty problematic, and it obviously was filmed and aired during the same times these books came out. So I don't know what I was thinking. I am sitting at a 2.5/ a 3-star rating when it comes to this book. I'm still not really decided on if I want to round it up to that 3 or if I really want to just stick with the 2.5. I don't know, y'all, but that's where I'm at right now. I'm really in the middle of the road, so maybe like a 2.75. Maybe we should just call it that. But yeah, that's my rating for this book, and now I'm going to get into my thoughts and explain why. Overall, like I mentioned, I do think that the TV series did a good job at like really taking a lot of elements from this book and pretty much fleshing out season 1 and episode 1 in particular, but especially season 1, because there were a lot of similarities, like I mentioned before, with the kiss on the lips party, as well as Serena coming back to town after she left boarding school mysteriously. Her and Blair's rivalry and like frenemies relationship and friendship is really like rearing its ugly head. Nate still conflicted about his feelings with Serena and Blair. Chuck being Chuck. I do think that overall it was pretty accurate, but I am glad that they didn't take every single like piece in the story and put it in the TV show, because I just don't think that the legacy would be what it is if they would have stuck too close to the script, because this book was just a lot, like I mentioned, but also it was just not the best. Like, I felt like at certain points I was hate reading. I think that if I would have picked this book up when I was younger and like actually gave it a read, definitely think that I would have ate it up, because these were the type of books that I was checking out from the library. I loved the Click series. If you guys know what I'm talking about, I love the Click series. I loved the Pretty Little Liars books. I only read like 1 or 2 of those, but I did enjoy the ones that I read. I think that I would have flew through this and I would have probably really enjoyed it and been like 5 out of 5 stars. But now being older and also really being critical of what I read, it just makes it more difficult for me to really get into it and really like commit, if you know what I mean. If I had to give it a rating in terms of the accuracy of this and the TV show, I would probably give it maybe like a 5, maybe a 5 or a 6. And now moving on to the characters. So y'all already know I got my notes ready, Now I did not write notes on every single character that did appear in this book, because there were some characters that appeared in here that are not in the TV show, and I just did not have anything to really say in terms of comparisons and stuff. Honestly, there are just so many, so I'm just gonna pop them up on the screen here. Hopefully you guys can just get a gist of them. Now we're gonna move on to Nate Archibald. So, oh gosh, how do I describe Nate? So Nate is described as someone who is very good looking, very charming. He can pretty much charm his way in and out of any situation because of how attractive he is. And that's pretty much all Nate's character is. Like, I'm sorry, but I really have nothing more to say about Nate and the type of person or character that he was. Now, don't get me wrong, Chase Crawford, that's a man, okay? Love me some Chase Crawford, and I think Chase Crawford did a good job at portraying Nate and bringing that character to life, even though he didn't have much to work with. Like, let's be honest, he did what he could with what he was dealt, and I thought he did a good job portraying Nate. Truly like golden boy to a T. Because of that, in the show, I didn't mind Nate. I felt like he was just kind of there for me. Like, it reminds me of that it reminds me of that episode in The Office where Dwight talked about Pam, and he was like, I look at Pam as like a well-watered fern. Like, she's just kind of there in the office. And that's how I felt about Nate. He's just kind of a well-watered fern. Like, he's all right. Like, if he was removed from the show, I wouldn't be upset. But if he also stayed, I wouldn't be upset. Like, his character does not offend me. In this book, his character offended me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, he offended me a little bit in this book. That got on my nerves. Like I said, his character is pretty accurate and pretty spot on with the TV show character. So him and Serena did sleep together before Serena ran off to boarding school. So therefore he did cheat on Blair with Serena. And Blair does not know about this, just like in the show. She did not know that they messed around behind her back. And when Serena comes back to the Upper East Side, her and Nate pretty much like fall back into old routine and start hanging out like nothing happened. And Serena would like, him and Serena would like hold hands. They would like kiss each other on the cheek. They would be very touchy-feely, as if Blair wasn't standing like 2 feet away from them and could see them. I didn't like that. I did not like that. And that goes for both parties, both Serena and Nate, because they both gonna catch it. Like, we not just gonna talk about Serena or just talk about Nate. It takes two to tango. So I did not like the fact that those two were messing around and still being a little bit like, how did the British say, cheeky? I didn't like how they were being cheeky when Blair was standing right there. Like, you were in a relationship, get your shit together. And Serena, that's supposed to be your best friend, get your shit together. Like, I just did not like that. So I really wish that he would have just stopped playing games and was a little bit more serious and just broke up with Blair and like go move forward with Serena or just stay single. That's just pretty much how I felt about Nate's character. Like, he offended me a little bit in this book, but at the same time, like, he also didn't really add too much to the story besides his love triangle. So no depth. So there was really no depth, no substance. Just like in the show, there was really no depth or substance to his character, which is a shame, but you know, whatever. Okay guys, we're almost done. We got 3 more characters left. Now we're moving on to Chuck Bass. So gosh, where do I even start with Chuck, child? Where do I even start with this monster? I have no idea. So in the show, Chuck is described as a teen billionaire who is also a womanizer and pretty much has slept with everybody that you can think of, and he doesn't really care that he has done it. Towards the, you know, middle and the end of the show, he does try to change into a better man and to try to really be a better man for Blair, so that way him and Blair can be endgame. And in this book, his character is still described as like a billionaire. Like, the Bass family is like really, really rich. In the book, he is described still as a teen billionaire, but his personality is a lot worse and even more insufferable than it was on Gossip Girl, like in the very beginning. Like, Chuck in the beginning of the series, I hated Chuck, okay? Like, I was Chuck's #1 hater. Like, if the world was with Chuck, I was against him. If he had 1,000 haters, I was one of them. Like, it was one of those type times. Like, I could not stand Chuck because of just how he was so like sleazy and shisty, and how he was just so entitled to not only like, you know, money and access and stuff, but just how he thought he was entitled to people, especially women and women's bodies. I did not like that about Chuck at all, and it was gross. He was icky, he was gross, and he also just could not dress, okay, in the first season. I did not like Chuck in the beginning, but as time went on, the execs of course tried to give him a redemption arc, and him and Blair's relationship became one of the most well-known and I think one of the most profound toxic relationships that have ever existed in TV history, to be honest. But in this book, I don't see it for him. I don't see it for him. I don't. If they would have tried to have Chuck's character resemble and mirror the character in this book to a T, oh yeah, he probably would have got booed off. Like, tomato, tomato, boo. Like, he would have got booed off of the show, if we're being honest. So good thing that they changed his storyline and his character arc up, because oof. But in this book, he's disgusting. He is disgusting. He is shicey. He is a creep, and he actually assaults Jenny in this book. He doesn't go as far as like actually like actually assaulting her, but he does violate her and tries to like grope her and stuff. So he is just not a good person. He's just also very, very mean, and like, he has a vile tongue. The way he talks to people, and again, especially women, I can't. He was one of the main people in this book that slut shamed Serena. Until he appeared in the book all the way into the end, he kept slut shaming Serena, like, no lie. Literally at the end of the book, there is a scene where Chuck and Serena get into an argument, and Chuck calls her all types of names, and it is just so like gross, because it's like, why you gotta do all that? Why you gotta do all that? And then it's also just really annoying because, Chuck, you do dirt too. So how are you gonna sit here and call Serena all of those names when you also are out here sleeping with every single woman in the Upper East Side? Like, it's not making sense. Like, somebody ain't doing the math right. So yeah, I did not like his character. He was gross. Honestly, they could have just removed him from the book, like from the series. Like, he just needed to be removed from the actual book itself. I'm not sure if he gets a redemption arc later on in the books, just like they did with him in the show. But yeah, did not like him. 0-10, do not recommend. Okay, so now we're finally moving on to the stars of the show, my girlies, Blair and Serena. So we're actually gonna start with Serena first. So in the show and in the book, Serena is described as like the beautiful one, of course. So she is blonde, tall, thin, long legs. So she of course does adhere to conventional beauty standards, and so guys want to be with her and girls want to be her. So that is really Serena's character to a T. She is also still considered the life of the party. She's a wild child and she is just very carefree, and she likes to just do whatever she wants essentially with no repercussions or consequences. I do think that her character and the character in the show are pretty spot on in that regard, like in terms of those personality traits and like the archetype itself, but there are also a lot of glaring differences with her character. So I'm still trying to figure out like how I want to word this, but I feel like in the book Serena comes off as very like brash and like bold and very like to the point and like blunt. She truly would just tell you about like, you know, what she got up to at boarding school or what she got up to in the past. She was very confident in herself, especially when it comes to sex and just like also hooking up and being with men. Like she was very confident about that. If somebody said to her like, oh, how was Europe, she would say something like, it was a good time, I was a bad girl. Like she would say things like that, and I'm like, what? Because in the show Serena, I felt like was really trying hard to rebrand herself. She was really trying to like grow as a person and not be like known as that girl, I guess. And so in the book it was just like really jarring to see the differences of how she was in the book and how she was perceived by others in the book versus in the show. So that is one thing that I wanted to note and wanted to say about her character. Another thing is, it seemed like more people hated her and disliked her than they liked her. And I know in the first season when she came back, she definitely had like people that were not happy with her arrival and her return. Blair of course was not happy at all that she was back, and Blair's minions, you know, were of course just following after Blair. But it just seemed like for the most part in the show, like people were either indifferent or they actually were like, oh wow, Serena's back, like that's cool, I wonder what happened at boarding school. Whereas in here it just seems like everybody's so irritated and annoyed at the fact that she returned, and they're like so mean to her. Like they're like constantly talking about her appearance, they're constantly talking about her, you know, love life and what she got up to in Europe and at boarding school and why she got kicked out. They're spreading the most hateful and vile and disgusting rumors imaginable. It's just so sad, but it's also just like, can y'all get a life? Can y'all get a hobby? Serena was literally like top of mind for all of these people. Like, you want to talk about somebody living rent-free in other people's heads? Serena was living rent-free in everybody's head, and she didn't even know it. She was really just trying to like mind her own business, but also just trying to figure out how she was going to play catch up in school. And it just didn't need to be all of that. Like, I just felt like, don't y'all got SAT prep and extracurriculars that you guys have to worry about? Why are y'all worried about what Serena is doing and what she's wearing? I don't know. And I know that that of course was a huge thing in the show, but like I felt like at a certain point in season 1, people moved on. People moved on because that is how like gossip works, and that's how these things work. Like, you're the topic for one day and then someone does something else and then they move on to that person. And I just felt like that was never the case here. I just felt like everybody was just so hyper focused on Serena and what she was doing or not doing, and it was just really weird and really annoying. Besides all of that, in terms of like how I felt about her as a character and like what I thought about her when we actually got to read from her perspective, I definitely like Serena better in the show than I do in the book. And I think that can be attributed to Blake Lively's just portrayal of her, because Blake Lively is a phenomenal actress, and I just thought that she did a great job at bringing Serena to life. I just feel like that role was like made for her, like the it girl. Like it made sense. It made sense, and Blake Lively ate that role up, left no crumbs. So I really liked her in the show. But in this book, like I said about Nate, she was moving too shicey for me. She was moving a little bit too shicey, and she was being a really like gross and bad friend to Blair. When she left boarding school, so similar to the show, when she left boarding school, she didn't even really tell Blair that she was leaving. She just kind of like had sex with Nate and then just dipped, and like nobody knew what happened to her. Nobody really knew like where she went or anything like that. And so her and Blair kind of had like sporadic communication when Serena was in Europe. So they would talk, but they also wouldn't talk for like certain periods of time. Serena would still try to be like really good friends with Blair, knowing that she slept with her boyfriend behind her back. And so when Serena comes back, Blair's not happy about her arrival, but Blair doesn't know that Serena and Nate did what they did. She still doesn't know. She's not happy about Serena's arrival because she just doesn't want to have to go back to being in Serena's shadow. So that's really the reason like why she's not happy that she's back. But I also think Blair does suspect that like Nate does like Serena, and she just doesn't want that threat, you know? So Serena comes back, and Serena just tries to like waltz in and act like nothing happened and that her and Blair are like besties. Like, she says to Blair, I can't wait until we get to do this, this, and this again, like old times. And Blair's looking at her like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, we don't do that anymore. Like, you left. Like, what are you saying? We're not even friends like that. And so I just did not like how Serena lacked a lot of self-awareness. In the show, she did also lack self-awareness in a lot of situations, but in the book, she really just like truly was in her own world. Like, she really thought that Blair was the crazy one for not wanting to jump at the chance of rekindling their friendship, which, like, girl, did you forget what you did with Nate? Like, I'm just trying to figure out. So I did not like how self-aware, I did not like how she lacked a lot of self-awareness. And again, I did not like how she was moving with Nate. So yeah, I did not like her character as much as I did in the show, which is really unfortunate because Serena is one of my favorite characters. Blake Lively, like I said, is charming and charismatic, and she did a good job at, I feel like, really allowing the viewers to sympathize with Serena, even when Serena was the one in the wrong. So I don't know, but I'm just kind of like rambling here and like word vomiting, but that's just how I feel. And now moving on to the final character, which is my favorite character out of Gossip Girl, and it is the iconic, the legendary Blair Waldorf. Go on a little bit of a tangent of why I like Blair. I just have to go on a little bit of a tangent about Blair as a character because I love me some Blair Waldorf. I'm sorry, like, yes, Blair can be a B word. Blair can be ruthless, cutthroat, mean. She schemes, she connives, and she deceits. But that's my girlie, that's my sister, and I stand by her. I'm sorry, that's my sister and I stand by her. I just find Blair's character so fascinating. I just think it is so interesting that not only a woman, but a woman that has all of those like character flaws can have so much power over people, but can also strike so much fear in people's hearts. Because on the show, Blair had people shook. If Blair was headed your way, you knew to duck and hide. You knew you had to duck and hide because she was about to take you down, whether that was with her words or like literally like she was going to use her money to get you out of town. We need to revisit when she literally banished Jenny Humphrey from New York. She exiled Jenny. So I'm just saying, anybody that can do that, they got my respect. I'm sorry. I like mess. Like I told you guys, I like mess. And Blair was like good mess. Like she was like classy mess, but she was mess. And a lot of mess and drama followed her because of her actions and the way that she would go about treating people. I loved me some Blair Waldorf. So when I picked up this book, I was really praying and hoping her character would be very similar to the iconic Blair that we all know and either love or hate. But y'all, she wasn't, and it was such a disappointment. She's a sneaky person and very methodical and meticulous about how she interacts with people and engages with people, and also just trying to figure out people's weaknesses so that way she can use it against them. That is Blair to a T. And again, she's ruthless, she's cutthroat. But in the book, I did not get any of that. I did not get any of that from her character. Her character was so bland and so blah that I was like, ew, this is not my girl. This is not Blair. This is not my Blair. Like, what is going on here? She was pretty much like described as like really shy, and like she was also like nice. Like she definitely had her moments where she was being rude and mean, but she was actually like very, very nice, which like was jarring because again, if you watch Gossip Girl, you guys know that Blair was anything but nice. Blair was a lot of things, but she wasn't nice. Not even to the people that she really loved or cared about. Blair was just not nice. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. And so to see her being really nice to people here, especially Jenny Humphrey, I was just really taken aback because I'm like, wow, Blair would never. Blair Waldorf would never. She would never. Also, they had her wearing jeans. Guys, they had her wearing jeans. When have we ever seen Blair even put on pants? I don't think I ever even seen Blair wear sweatpants in Gossip Girl. No, like even when she would lounge around, she would wear the like cutest and like most like feminine like lingerie sets that were flown straight from Paris. Like that is what Blair would wear. So to hear that Blair threw on a pair of faded jeans, I was like, oh, y'all are unserious. Y'all are unserious. Stop the count. I can't read this book anymore. I can't, because you guys are offending me, because this is not the Blair Waldorf that I know and have come to love. I'm sorry, it's not. I did not care for her character in the slightest. Like, that's cute that she was nice and stuff like that to Jenny and all that. Okay. But like, again, this is Gossip Girl. I want mess. I want mess. I want the soap opera drama and the theatrics. She didn't have that fire. She didn't have that power or that influence or that je ne sais quoi that like Leighton Meester was able to give Blair. For the most part, like the bigger picture, I feel like everybody was different, and I definitely prefer the show over the book. So glad that the producers went in the direction that they went in and put their own spin and take on Gossip Girl, the TV show. And also shout out to the cast of Gossip Girl. So again, Leighton Meester, Chase Crawford, Blake Lively, Penn Badgley, Jessica, like Taylor Momsen. Like, shout out to all of them for bringing these characters to life, doing a phenomenal job with acting and just doing what they could to really make these characters believable and sell them and make them entertaining to watch, because that's not an easy feat, especially when like this is the material. Like, shout out to them. But yeah, y'all, those are all of my thoughts on the first book in the Gossip Girl series. So as you can tell by the end of this video, I am not going to read or talk about my thoughts about the last book in the series. I don't know if I am going to end up reading it If I do, I would just film another reading vlog, but honestly, I don't know if I'm going to continue because I just prefer the show. Like, I prefer the show, and I'm actually on my like 100th rewatch of it right now. I think I'm on like season 4, so yeah, I'd rather just do that. Like, if I'm having a Gossip Girl craving, I'd rather just watch the show. But I am happy that I have these books and that I have these dust jackets because, like I said before, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. So I'm just really happy that I have this on my bookshelf and like as a keepsake because it just means a lot to me. I love the attention and the care to the dust jacket. Like, look at my girls, like exactly, period. Like, I love it. So yeah, I'm really happy that I do have these. Don't know or think I will be continuing with the series. I just don't think it's necessary, but I did want to film this video and just talk to you guys about it. I just really wanted to read this, and I just thought that this would be a really fun reading vlog to film. Looking back on some of these books from back in the day, it's just like a very weird, like Twilight Zone-esque type of episode and journey. Interesting to see how far we have come when it comes to literature and including certain topics in books and not including certain topics in books, etc. So yeah, all in all, I'm really happy that I filmed this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have read any of the Gossip Girl books and if you actually enjoyed the series or if you just preferred the show. Let me know who was your favorite character in Gossip Girl. Like I said, my favorite was Blair. I know that's messy, but like, that's my favorite character. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video like I always do. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!